So, I stopped playing Pillars for now. I'm actually going to wait for a couple patches. I ran into some party dialogue bugs that were a bummer, and the save importing is a little goofy right now. So I'm back to my rule of get excited for one of these types of games to come out, play it for about 10 hours.
This seems to happen.
Get frustrated with the thing, put it back on the shelf for 6 months to a year, and then go back and play the one that this happened to the last time, which would be Divinity Original Sin 2. That game is amazing in a lot of ways, but there's only really one thing that I want to talk about, and it's how it okay, this is going to sound like a really weird thing, but follow me here. The way that game is built, it's systemic, so it's almost like a Breath of the Wild analog to like those other computer RPGs, where instead of, say, a Pillars, which is it's like pre-rendered backgrounds, that's very static.
Yeah.
Everything is a dialogue check or a mechanics check or what have you. In Divinity, everything just kind of works on its own system, and if you want to fuck with it, you can just fuck with it.
Fuck with it.
And the best example of this is you get a teleport spell in that game, and it's very simple. If you have somebody within a certain, I want to say like 15 meters or something, you can pick them up, and you can put them anywhere within 15 meters of yourself in your line of sight. This includes party members and enemies. And once you have 2 people with this, you can bypass massive sections of the map and ignore huge quest lines, how to open up or bypass doors. You can go to a gargoyle maze and just start teleporting your party through walls and ignore every single mechanic and puzzle element of that maze. You can put them up on tall buildings so that they become unreachable by enemies, and thus can just fire arrows for an entire fight because nothing can move them.
That sounds pretty busted.
If you're on a hill with a little path in front of you, and to the left is a sheer cliff wall that goes up, and to the right is a cliff wall that goes down, and if an enemy is to your right on the bottom, they have to run all the way around, you can just, as soon as they get to you, teleport them back to the bottom. And then they are forced to run all the way around as you take pot shots at them. But the best, this game is built on being able to cheese it, is that there is a huge boss fight at the end of the first act, which is super tough. You have to fight, like, it's the kind of game where your party size is either 2 or 4, and you're fighting near always groups of 4 to 6 enemies, like it's very small scale. This one has like 8 enemies, and then in the middle of the fight, a huge monster shows up and attacks, and it is crazy tough. And I was throwing myself against it for hours until I thought, why don't I just keep everyone outside of the combat arena, because it's a little like harbor. Why don't I just teleport the boss behind me as far as he will go, and then before anyone can get their turn, I just knock him down and beat on him and kill the boss before any of the other characters can even look at my party. And so I did it, and it worked. And there was nothing broke, I just did it. And then I ran away. And when I ran away, I got to loot the thing and then restart the combat encounter with full health and resources like nothing happened, and teleported a second person out of the arena and then beat on them to death.
So I was going to ask, what's to keep that from being the most OP thing in the world?
Nothing.
Yeah, okay.
So the thing
it's as busted as it sounds.
Well, it's like Jumper.
It's exactly like
so
Jumper.
there are a lot of mechanics like that. There are a shit ton of environmental effects. It's the kind of game where if you
pronounce the E, by the way. You don't want to do that. It's Jumper.
Oh, yeah.
Jumper.
Like, one of the more useful skills in the game is rain, and all it does is make it rain. But raining breaks people's invisibility because the rain hits them. It makes the ground wet. It puts out people's fires. And if any enemies are standing and get wet, and then you hit them with an ice spell or electric spell, they get frozen or shocked and lose their turns. Like, it's one of those, like, all these things. So the thing is that the game's super hard. The game is really, really, really hard. So the answer to what's to stop that from being broken is nothing, because the game kind of wants you to break it. It kind of feels like the Marvel of Western RPGs, where they kind of expect you to use all the busted shit that you can get your hands on in order to do it. You can you can use telekinesis and pick up barrels, or you know what you can do? You can fill up a crate, just a regular crate that you bring around with your entire inventory of items, right? When a teleported item falls, it does damage associated with the weight of the item. So if you teleport something containing your entire inventory onto a person, they will just die.
Wow.
And that's not intentional. It's just a weird side effect of how the systems work.
Yeah, okay.
And every system in the game is like this. Like, I had party members die, so what did I do? I ran away, and then I was able to teleport their corpses out of the fight and then resurrect them safely.
Wow.
That is awesome.
That is ridiculously game-breaking.
It is so fucking great. And everything works like this. The way sneaking works, you can do all sorts of stupid bullshit. You can rob anybody. You can kill any. Like it actually, it works when you break its system, and it intends for it. Because otherwise, I don't know how I would have gotten through some of that shit. Like it is fascinating. It is so cool.
Wikipedia article states that it started as a spin-off to Jumper.
No,
and they're like, let's build another game off this idea.
Griffin's story had to be its own. It needed space.
I forgot about the subtitle.
Griffin's story needed its own space.
Did you do pre-sir? Did you actually test that? Because I thought that was early on.
I fucking tested it.
Yeah. Why didn't we play that instead of 300?
Up.
Oh, next time.
It's probably the biggest difference I've seen of this between any of those other games is this is a game that wants you to make your own. Like, you know, these RPGs, like think of, you played Mass Effect. I know that one works. It's like, how are you going to solve this? Violently or non-violently, right? Mm-hmm. And this one is, how are you going to solve this? No, seriously, you can solve it any fucking way you want.
Now, I've always heard about, like, Fallout.
Within its own mechanics.
I've always heard about how Fallout's ability to, like, let you just break shit, like, is the best but also worst part of it. Yeah. Because it can stop you from being able to complete it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And does that...
When I played Fallout 3 and I beat it, that thing happened to me where I was like, I couldn't complete a quest because I'd fucked myself over.
Yeah, so
in a really unintended
in Fallout
way.
3, I remember vividly, and it's a Bethesda thing where plot critical NPCs that are related to the main story, if they're required, you can't kill them. You can only knock them out.
Okay.
In New Vegas, I believe they have written around it so that even if you killed everybody, you would still be able to complete the objectives with like a completely dead world.
Okay.
Here's the quest I'm giving. Anybody want to take this quest I'm giving in? No.
And I'm thinking about Divinity, and I'm like, okay, say I'd killed all those guys, and then I killed all these guys, and then I killed that, and then I skipped that. I still would have been able to complete it. And on a whim, I forget where I saw this. There's a 1 hour and fucking 30. No, there's a 37-minute speed run of the entire game, in which they abuse certain different teleport abilities and the ability to play dead at the start of combat. And you just, hey, this is a storyline battle. You play dead so that enemies ignore you, and then at your first chance, you teleport past the combat. And run.
And move.
And that works for the whole game.
Wow.
You can just do that and just go.
The ultimate coward through. That's pretty good.
So, like, in this, like, can you kill people and screw their quests up? Absolutely. It's super easy. You in fact, in the starting area, all your companions, in many cases, have mutually exclusive goals. The Red Prince wants to talk to this guy, but Sybil wants to kill him. Better talk to him with Red Prince first. Because the instant Sybil gets within a certain distance of him, your party member just goes and kills them without your permission, essentially. It's awesome. It's fucking great.
While it's way more basic, I always like that bit of Souls games. Just when there's warring factions and guilds and you're just like, you're locked out. Why did you talk to him?
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk to you now because you talked to the fucking Canehurst people. Or fuck off.
But then the randomness that is walking in and seeing the fight go down, and you're like, if I let this play out, it can go either way.
I need to make a decision in the next minute.
better back the right horse there.
Oh, boy.
It's a fascinating game, and every time I sit down and play it, there's some weird new systemic thing that I find, like, so it uses a skill book system in which you, hey, I want to learn Fireball, so you buy the Fireball skill book and you make a character read it and they learn Fireball, right? Mm-hmm. Well, turns out you can use the crafting system to combine Fireball with an Earth spell, and then you get a Fire-Earth combination spell of whatever type that you did, and that exists for almost every single school in the game, and it's just like, biggest problem with that game, all the cool shit that I'm describing to you, it's so complicated. It's overwhelmingly complex. It is by far the most difficult game that I've played in order to learn how to build a party or build a character so that they're not shit. And the game is super, super hard. Like, I'm playing on normal, and there have been 3 or 4 fights that I had to spend, like, hours banging my head against because it's super, super tough. And they really want you to break it. They want you to make min-max fucked up builds. They want you to cheese shit and teleport people out of place or set them on fire and make sure they can't get up.
I suppose, like, a developer just goes, what do people want to do? Just have no restrictions on all this shit, so let's build a game like that.
Yeah.
As long as you can hit the credits.
There are a bunch of things you can't even access unless you do that teleport shit. Like, they're just, you know, like a tower that just has no entrance. And the only way to get up there is to physically throw somebody up there with teleport.
Get up there.
But you can't just huge your way through it?
No.
You can't numbers through it?
No, you can't numbers through it because enemy encounters are fixed. It's like KOTOR.
Okay.
It's like, did you kill that? Well, they're done. So there's only one way to huge through it, and it's a way that most people are likely to be very uncomfortable with it. Everyone gives you experience.
Okay, so...
Everyone gives you experience.
Everyone, yes.
Everyone.
So there was a point where I was having trouble hitting level 8. I couldn't hit level 8. I just missed just like the smidgen. I'm like 300 away. And I'm like, well, I finished Migo and Yarrow's quest, and they have good items on them, and they're in a really out-of-the-way location. Hey, I hit level 8.
And you're wearing a shirt that says, I'm in a bad mood and you like just enough XP to level me up.
They were just enough XP to level me up.
None of us actually bought any of those hilarious shirts.
I'm too much of a coward.
No, if I find the right one, I'm going to get it.
I could
want
never
to get one of
do
those
it.
Vegeta ones.
Oh, man. There's a place for me in hell. It's called a throne.
Dude.
Oh my god, that's the worst.
I'm gonna get one of those. You'll see one day.
That's what it means to be fairy tale.
I'm gonna get one of those shirts, and you'll respect me finally.
I can't.
That's nothing if it not begs for respect.
Oh man,
you're just going, man. The respect and balls I'll give for when someone does a time jump. That should apply here too.
Right.
Aside from that, the only thing I want to say about the game is, Matt, what's the last RPG you played of any type?
Like a new one, not going back
anything.
to an old thing. Christ. There's.
I need a point of comparison.
Tales of Berseria.
Right. So in Tales of Berseria, you have towns, you have a world map, you have dungeons, right? So in this game, the distinction between those things is very small because the actual world map is overall quite small compared to what you would expect from most games. You spend the whole
dense.
That's where I'm getting on. Yeah. It's like you spend the whole game on foot, and it's really, really bizarre because every little intersection in a forest or every little room has a fucking gimmick to it. Every single one. So you look at the map and you go, oh, that's the whole map for Act 1, Fort Joy. It's not even, it's maybe 500 square feet of the whole fort. The amount of time you spend in that tiny area is astonishing because you go into some cavern that in any other game would be relegated to the NPCs that are in there. What? They're the poor elves. Oh, they're sad. Oh, you talk to them, right?
They usually are.
Okay, well, in the back there's a huge barricade. If you either physically break down or teleport the barricade away and go back there is a mini dungeon with a bunch of electric frogs that attack you and a bunch of loot. And it's like twice the size of the NPC area but it's not on the map until you go there. Okay, that's cool. I did that. Hey, there's a little shit kid running in circles. So you talk to shit kid, and what does he do? He gives you the fucking hide and seek quest that's in every fucking game. So you follow him because he says, I'm gonna go hide and seek, and then he just runs away, but like on map, and you see him, and it's isometric. So you just go over. He's right there. You go over and you talk to him. He goes, okay, great, and then he bamps invisible. You go, oh, then you really have to actually scrounge for it. Sure enough, you find him. He goes, hey, use this hatch. Kicks open a hatch. Brings you to another side area where there's a fucking zombie stuck to the wall who's telling you about a quest to destroy his soul jar and tells you about a secret lever that opens up an entire dungeon that you wouldn't find otherwise. And that's just in this tiny little cave. It's so dense. There's so many things happening in the frame that you can't.
Every square matters.
Every square matters. And it's smart because this is a relatively small studio. Yeah, I know. It's a relatively small studio, and they used Kickstarter
So dense.
They used Kickstarter to help finish this game, and it's a really smart decision to go for less asset creation and less space, but more stuff. You doing okay, Matt? You doing okay?
I'm doing fine.
Choose your words.
No, I don't need to choose any
Every
words.
single image has so many things going on. It's so dense in the frame.
Yeah, it is.
It's a great game. If any of you wanted to play it, I would highly suggest going to Fextra Life and looking up build guides because it is so easy to make a terrible character.
Why is that site called Fextra Life?
I have no idea, but they've done Pillars, Divinity, Souls.
They do all of these.
They do all those big nerd games.
Big builds for big boys.
Speaking of those,
yes.
Let's take a word from our sponsors.